Joining us now, Mark Lloyd. He ran the state of Virginia for the Trump campaign. Well, I was the first vice chairman and then the chairman there. We had the big resounding victory in the Super Tuesday primary where we got outspent by Rubio, $2.2 million to $50,000 in broadcast. But it was the $50,000 they spent was so smart during the campaign. It really was. And 25 of that was during the primary, and that went to the greatest radio station in Virginia of all time, and that's me, John Fredericks Radio Network. That's why they won. Plus, they had Mark Lloyd, who has joined us now. Mark, great to have you, man.
Well, it's good to be back with you. It was good to see you last night with kind of like a little Trump reunion there.
It was. It was a lot of fun. Lynn Talent was there, we saw, and Joanne Chase and some of the biggest backers that we had. You know, a lot of people forget when this campaign started back in, really when it started to get underway, which is back in July of 2015. I mean, the people that were helping us out, I mean, we had just a handful of people. I mean, it was a very small contingent, right? Remember?
Oh, yeah. It was, in fact, those were the fire eaters. Everybody that stood up in the beginning to support Trump, I mean, we just took such abuse from the rest of the, the party people.
Yeah, well, they hated him. They hated Trump, and they wanted Jeb, and they
now those, the same people that were giving us the grief now. Oh my gosh, They all want to be our best friends.
Now, Mark, I wanted to get you on today, seeing you last evening, because I'm on this rant about the wasted money from the Republican National Committee and the fact that we don't have a ground game to match the Democrats. And that's why we keep getting beaten in these close races. And they raise and spend all this money, and they don't get the result behind it. Tell me what is going on here.
Well, if I knew what was going on, oh my gosh, they'd be getting nothing but calls to fix it. But what I can see is the results of what's going on. And obviously, it wasn't good, and it hasn't normally been good. For an example, what I do see is that, because I've worked in multiple states during this cycle, and Tennessee was a great example. Marsha Blackburn was up against a former governor.
Right.
Tennessee's normally a red state.
Right.
But she was struggling this summer. I mean, struggling. Mm-hmm. The other Republicans in the area were going to win by double digits in their races.
Right.
But Marsha was in a neck and neck race.
Right.
So we go around. I was doing an independent expenditure down there, but we would run into these kids, well-meaning kids, but they're kids that were dropped into East Tennessee. Mm-hmm. They were from other places in the state, in the country, but they were dropped in almost last minute to pull together a ground game. They didn't know anybody. The party wasn't helping them. It was a total disaster on the ground for where all the Republican votes were. They were not contacting people the way they should, and they did it because they wait till the last minute, and then they do they do the best they can. But it seems to be with the Republican Party, there is no forward thinking or planning. And then it's always, hurry up and do the best you can right there at the end. And we know how that works. Where the Democrats, John, they've got this stuff plotted out years in advance with how they're going to message, who they're going to target. And they pay people. And the Democrats actually treat their volunteers like they value them, where the Republican Party doesn't do that many times. Mm-hmm. Take what they can get and they kick them to the curb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you got the high money consultants taking over. I want to read everybody a text that you sent me earlier today. May I? Hard facts.
Yeah, sure.
Mark Lloyd says, remember Mark Lloyd, former state director for the Trump campaign in Virginia, worked with me hand in hand when I was first vice chairman and then chairman after they fired Stewart. The activist base that knocks on doors and makes the calls don't trust the Republican National Committee or the state parties having watched them retreat and never deliver as promised, as well as waste the money. It is going to be up to the independent expenditure organizations and individual campaigns to actually pull together a ground game. Explain that.
Well, I thought that was pretty self-explanatory. The RNC, they can't, all right, out in the field with the real people, not here in the swamp or, talking to the big consultants, the people on the ground don't think the RNC can find their butt with both hands. And they've proven that. You still look at the results. The state parties, you have a similar thing going on in the state parties in most of the states. The people that have been traditionally involved in Republican politics, they are, what we have come to call the establishment. Mm-hmm. They try to control their little fiefdoms, and it turns into the coffee clutches that they've had for years and years, mm-hmm. where they don't really do anything, John. Mm-hmm. But they'll have a meeting, and they'll have a dinner and eat a rubber chicken, and that's the end of their activism. And they don't reach out into the communities to try to really involve more people overall. Mm-hmm. So you don't have, the state parties, they just function amongst this very small group of people, and they actually believe in their hearts that they're doing something. Mm-hmm. They're not growing and expanding the party. Mm-hmm. And when you get them together, the state of Virginia, RPV, you have certain congressional districts where the party will actually work with the candidate, but all over the state, look at the Corey Stewart primaries, plural now, mm-hmm. You got people at each other's throats. Mm-hmm. So the parties are fractured. They really, in some places, only exist on paper. Mm-hmm. And when you try to reach out to get people to do stuff, to step out of their, regular lives, running their businesses and going to the ball games with their kids, you want them to devote time to work for the party. They're just not going to do it because they see this turmoil. They feel like, well, why would I waste my time trying to do this because these people can't get it together? Mm-hmm. That is a realism all across the country. Mm-hmm. What Donald Trump did is that he hit a resonant chord with Americans. Mm-hmm. And they saw in him something they could get behind. It was above the fray, believe it or not. Now, he's a fighter, and there's a lot of fray going on around him. But he gave them a reason to come out to the polls and to get involved. How many of the party traditionalists do you think actually reached out to that new Trump voter to try to get them to come in?
Yeah, none.
Oh, no, they didn't reach out to them.
Right.
They tried to shut them out. They kicked them to the curb, made them feel like garbage. It was horrible. It's still horrible.
Well, it's still horrible now. They've done the same thing now to them, right? I just want everybody to understand this. We get our original volunteers together, and again, Mark worked with Mike Rubino. Rubino was first the state director. Then he went to New York to run other states. Lloyd stayed in Virginia. He became the state director for Virginia. I was the vice chair of Virginia with Corey Stewart. Then they fired Stewart. Then I went from vice chair and spokesperson for the campaign to chairman and spokesperson for the campaign. So we were there from the beginning, Mark and I, knowing everything that went on. But even today, you get together with the core volunteers that we had. The Republicans have never reached out to them. They've never embraced them. They don't want them. And it's like, if it's convenient for them to help them do something, fine. But they're still ostracized. They're still looked at as, what did Hillary call them? Deplorables?
Deplorables, right? Absolutely.
That is...
You and I both, last night, how many people did we talk to that were just, it was really so good to see them that they would talk about their stories over the last 2 years, how they actually tried to get involved. And they have felt ridiculed. They have felt ostracized. And I think going to things like that where you have this core group of Trump people re-energizes these people because they're certainly not re-energized at the party functions or around the party operations.
No, they could care less. Because they've been treated like crap, okay?
Yep.
They've been treated like crap when they were volunteers for us. We treated them like gold. You and I did, and so did Rubino and everybody else. But then, as soon as the professionals got involved, they treated them like crap, kicked them to the curb. Many of them never got jobs. Those that did were bounced around. And then the other thing that's going on, Mark, is every time I get together with our people, and I want everybody in the United States to understand this. I'm kind of diverging topics here. I've only got 2 minutes. Every time I get together with our people, those that have gotten jobs in agencies that were political appointees, I'm not talking about ambassadors or senior level, just, jobs that are open to Trump appointees, Trump supporters. Every single one that I talk to hates their job because they have been treated like absolute garbage. They hate going into work every day. The deep staters that are there, the career civil servants, make their life absolutely miserable. So it's like I supported Trump. I volunteered for him. I tried to work for the administration. I get treated like absolute garbage. I don't work for the administration. I want to get involved and be a volunteer. I'm kicked out. I'm not invited to anything. And I'm only called up when they need something. I mean, is that not what's happened?
Yeah, they need their money or their doors to be knocked.
Exactly. That's it. So you and I have got to figure this out because the Republican Party of Virginia is not going to do it. The RNC is not going to do it. Jack Wilson's not going to do it. We got to figure this out. I don't know what we're going to do, but we have to do something.
Well, I know there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas. The problem is a lot of those new ideas, because they are new and they are fresh and they do take into consideration what's going on today, they are not going to be looked at seriously because, let's face it, I mean, I've worked all over the country now, and you go into a Republican area where they're working, it's a vintage 1996 campaign. It's 2018, folks. Yep. But this is what we've always done. And there is little to no change. And the other part is that the Democrats know they can anger their constituents to do just about anything. And while they're angering the Democrats, they know they're paralyzing the Republican Party with fear. I mean, it's, they get a twofer. Every time they tick off their people, our people get into the fetal position. We don't know how to fight. Donald Trump tried to teach them how to fight, and every place we do fight, we win. But that's not the Republican way.
No, they don't want to fight. They want to cower in the corner, and they're afraid of the tax cut, and they're afraid of the fake media, and it's really sad. So, but you're right. Hey, I'm out of time at the bottom of the hour. Mark Lloyd, I want to thank you for being with us. Great insight. Former director for the State for Trump in Virginia. Pam Brown writes in, John, Mark Lloyd is so on the money. He is so right. Thank you, Pam.